A man arrested under the Prevention of Terrorism Act last Tuesday has been charged with causing an explosion. He's John Gerard Matthews. He's 22 and unemployed. No address has been disclosed. He'll appear before magistrates in East London tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, 3 people still being held in connection with the bomb which devastated the city on the same day as the minicab hijackings have now been released. John Silverman, BBC News at Scotland Yard.
A man has appeared at Luton Magistrates Court charged with the murder of Marina Turvey and her 7-month-old daughter Charlene. David Edwards was also charged with attempting to murder John Turvey. He was remanded in custody for a week.
The family of Marina and baby Charlene Turvey arrived at court in Luton in a highly emotional state. John Turvey and his mother wept openly. Relatives of David Edwards were also there. Police ushered both families into the court. Edwards was brought into court from Luton Police Station, which is connected by a tunnel under the road. As he stepped into the dock, handcuffed to a police officer, John Turvey leapt up and shouted and swore at him. He was held back by members of his family. Edwards was charged with the murder of 19-year-old Marina Turvey and the murder of her 7-month-old daughter Charlene last Friday. He was also accused of attempting to murder John Turvey. There was no application for bail and he was remanded in custody. There were further outbursts in court as Edwards was led away to his cell. And as the Turvey family emerged into the sunshine, frustration and emotion burst out again. They were led away by police and driven to their homes in Luton. Adam Minot, BBC News, Luton Magistrates Court.
East Germany's first legal strike for more than 60 years has hit steel and engineering firms that refused to pay their promised wage increases. The pay deal was designed to bring wages in the East up to levels in the more prosperous West. Volkswagen, Siemens and AEG are among the companies whose plants have been brought to a standstill by the strike.
They may be novices in the art of strikes, but Eastern Germany's industrial workers quickly showed their mettle on the picket lines. The first strike action here for 60 years was at a steelworks near Berlin, where everyone came out and brought production to a standstill. When the dawn shift came off this electronics plant in Dresden, they made quite sure no one else came in. IG Metall's leader, Franz Steinkuhler, has been a symbol of Germany's industrial consensus, but today he took his stand. No surrender to the boss's strong-arm tactics over pay. The union chief spoke of tactics to go for big concerns, gradually turning up the heat, and of fresh feelers from the employer's side at an evening meeting today, the only hope for industrial peace this week.
I can't tell you how long it will last, but there are 2 possibilities. Either it becomes a very short strike, because during this week there is a solution. Or if this doesn't work, then I expect a very long and very tough strike, which will last for a couple of weeks for sure.
The employer's threats of more massive job losses have failed to deter these striking East German workers. The union's war chest is full, and its leaders say it'll fight on for weeks or months to win expensive concessions from the other side. William Horsley, BBC News, Dresden.
Princess Margaret's son, Viscount Linley, is to marry later this year. Viscount Linley, who's 12th in line to the throne, has become engaged to Serena Stanhope, who he met several years ago. The wedding is to be held in London, though no date has yet been set. Stephen Hendry has won snooker's Embassy World title for the 3rd time, overwhelming Jimmy White by 18 frames to 5. Leading 12-4 overnight, Hendry made short work of taking the 6 frames he needed to retain the title. It was White's 5th defeat in a world final and earned Hendry a record prize of £175,000. The players and supporters of Manchester United will celebrate winning the FA Premier League title when the team plays Blackburn this evening at Old Trafford. United were assured of their first championship title for 26 years when their only challengers, Aston Villa, lost yesterday.
United fans have been at Old Trafford since early morning. Their reward, a mid-afternoon glimpse of the men who won the first Premier League title.
It's something we'll not forget. I mean, to try and get up the car park was probably harder than winning the league, actually, but I'm delighted for everybody concerned with Manchester. We know how much it is to them, and it'll be unbelievable scenes here tonight.
And for Brian Robson, former England captain, a championship medal at last to cap his career.
Well, I think tonight the fans will make that. There'll be a tremendous atmosphere out there, and I'm really looking forward to the evening.
This isn't just any championship at any club. That 26 years has passed since United last won it in the days of Charlton, Best, Law and Busby has been one of English football's enduring issues. And this, arguably, perhaps, is the world's most famous football club. The spirit, if not the extent of these themes, is being repeated across the globe today. The Manchester United Superstore, meanwhile, has been overwhelmed with business. 4 new items appeared this morning and will be appropriate party wear for this evening's 42,000 paying guests. The result no longer matters, it's celebration all the way. Rob Bonnet, BBC News, Old Trafford, Manchester.
And there'll be highlights of Manchester United's game against Blackburn in Match of the Day on BBC 2 at 10 o'clock. But that's it for now. The main news on 1 tonight is at 10:15.
Good evening. A lot of fine weather in the days ahead, with the exception of the northwest, as fronts such as that one brush past. There are 1 or 2 showers in the north at the moment, but they're dying away fast. That's only because cloud is already thickening, and during the course of the night we will find some outbreaks of rain coming across those northwestern parts, more particularly I think into Scotland, maybe just the odd spots into northern parts of Northern Ireland. But the main thing is that with clear skies over much of the country, it is going to be a very cold night. There'll be a widespread ground frost, and in 1 or 2 places there could even be a touch of air frost. Around the coast, though, those temperatures will stay harmlessly higher. Then for tomorrow, well, again, that northwestern part starts off fairly windy, cloudy, with further outbreaks of rain. But I think the wind will ease off, the rain will ease off too, come to that. And for much of the day, there'll be nothing more than perhaps just a little spot or 2 of drizzle and a little bit of brightness coming through as well. But for much of the rest of the country, a very simple story really, dry, a good deal of sunshine, and in most places quite reasonable temperatures, a little bit higher than today, around about 15 or 16 degrees. But around many of the coasts, with the wind coming in off the sea, it will stay cooler.
More tales of heroism and bravery in 999. Trapped in a 100-foot ravine, a young boy faces certain death until rescued by a passing jogger. A rescue that almost went horribly wrong on the freezing mudflats of the River Medway. And the extraordinary story of a man who, against all the odds, survived a broken back after a terrifying air crash in Shropshire. And just what is the walk, talk and die syndrome? 999 explains, tomorrow 9:40 on BBC One.
The new Radio Times contains a complete weekly listings guide and includes previews and features on forthcoming BBC television and radio programmes. In 5 minutes on BBC One, an action-packed entertainment spectacular, the Children's Royal Variety Performance.
And now on BBC One, tonight's edition of South Today with Mark Longhurst.
Hello, good evening. The Conservatives have been trying to take the sting out of the controversy over school testing, with the Education Secretary John Patten leading a defence of the government's proposals as he visited Newbury. With just 3 days left before the town's by-election, the main parties were out in force to persuade undecided voters.
At a time of rebellion against standard testing in schools, the sight of the embattled Education Secretary being greeted at one was perhaps unusual. But Conservative Party managers in Newbury were keen to show that the hostility isn't universal. And that was the theme at this morning's news conference.
I think that people will begin to realise over the years, as tests at each level are introduced, how they are raising standards overall for children in this country, where particularly in the bottom third of ability we do lag, so all international figures show us, a long way behind some of our competitors like the French and the Germans.
With just 3 campaigning days left before Thursday's vote, the men in suits were out to mingle. This time the turn of Lord Archer to keep Julian Davidson company at Kintbury.
Thank you very much.
But the Liberal Democrats had got there first. Their balloons giving some of the homemade rafts perhaps their best chance of staying afloat. David Rendell's campaign was also buoyed up by a telephone poll which suggests the Liberal Democrats are on course to win. But the party doesn't want that to deter potential voters.
I think we are edging into a lead. We certainly think we can win on Thursday, but if people take it for granted and don't give David their support, he isn't going to win. We need every vote we can get, and we're still in the process of building that up.
Hang on to the string because it'll go in the air. Wait!
For Labour, Steve Bilcliffe was at the fair in Newbury, telling voters here that previous form notwithstanding, his party is determined to do well on Thursday.
There are 16 other candidates standing in the by-election, making 19 candidates in all. That's a record for any parliamentary election, and 6 are campaigning on an anti-Maastricht platform. 2 people were arrested after disturbances at the site of the M3 extension at Twyford Down in Hampshire. Police were called to the site after a security guard was injured during the demonstration against construction work. Damage estimated at thousands of pounds was caused to construction machinery. Site managers say protesters smashed the windscreens of several vehicles and put one digger out of action for at least a week. British Airways flights at Gatwick are back to normal after yesterday's strike by cabin staff. Up to 300 passengers have now been able to travel after spending last night in hotels. The Transport Workers Union was protesting at BA's plans to transfer 3 routes to a subsidiary company. Union leaders say the strike was a success and it was necessary to fight against lower pay and poorer working conditions. Health officials in West Sussex are to review employment procedures after giving a job to a doctor wanted for questioning for drugs charges. Last week, Dr. Philip Ilkiff was given a suspended jail sentence for supplying false prescriptions in Worthing. He'd been suspended by Dorset Healthcare Trust in 1991 after similar offences. Reading Football Club has postponed plans to remove crowd control barriers after trouble during the weekend match with Swansea. 7 people have been charged with public order and criminal damage offences. In a separate incident, a Portsmouth football supporter was critically injured during a fight at a hotel in Sunderland.
A number of supporters were staying at the Windsor Hotel in Tyne Wear. Police say they became involved in a disturbance with a group from Coventry who were also at the Whitley Bay Hotel. Wayne Giffin, who's 31, was taken to Newcastle General Hospital, where his condition is described as critical. Meanwhile, following violence at Reading Football Ground at the weekend, the club's reconsidering its plans to dismantle security fencing. During the game, Swansea fans broke down fences and threw missiles at the police.
The real supporter was shocked and horrified, not only our supporters but their supporters, that this mindless thuggery could come along, travel all the way up from South Wales to Reading and create this absolute spectacle of mayhem.
7 Swansea supporters are due to appear before magistrates next month, charged with public order and criminal damage offences.
Finally, a look at the weather for tonight and tomorrow. Clear skies could leave many rural areas with a frost tonight. Temperatures may fall close to 2 degrees Celsius. In the morning, any early mist patches will soon clear, with a fine and often sunny day over the whole region. Temperatures recovering to 15 degrees Celsius in the afternoon with east to northeast winds.
As you know, the World Snooker Final ended this afternoon, and there are highlights at 7:20 on BBC Two. And that's followed at 8:10 by the comic strip team in The Red Nose of Courage.
Kurt Russell meets rich, spoilt Goldie Hawn, who's about to lose her footing, her memory, and her lifestyle.
Oh, my hair! Oh, I think I'd remember if I had 3 children.
4, honey. Don't forget little Joe.
Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell go overboard. Bank Holiday Movie Entertainment, tonight at 8:30 on BBC One.
And now on BBC One, a star-studded mystery tour bringing comedy, music, magic and legend, introduced by Andy Peters, the children's Royal Variety performance.